Everything is in constant motion and interconnected in infinite, sometimes unknowable ways. Every step we take, every choice we make, changes the incredible, vital and balanced system that is our Earth. We are creating devastating, deep change for every living creature and our ecosystem. But if we are capable of inflicting long-lasting wounds every day, we can also create progress in extraordinary ways. It starts by making a commitment to do better. Now, since we know we are responsible for Mother Earth and for all its creatures and the human beings it sustains, we know it's time to take a stand and start shaping a sustainable future. Positive, dependable, and based on real, collective actions. Together, we can transform renewable energy and make it fully sustainable. For the planet and for people. An unlimited source of shared value. Inventive and audacious. We want to celebrate progress and the positive change digital technologies and innovation can bring as enablers of a common well-being. Interconnected with the Earth, with human beings and all living beings in a new bond of trust and care. We believe that new solutions can be found together by respecting our common home, embracing diversity and standing up for everyone's right to a better life. Only by choosing to stay human, we can turn the tide on climate change and usher in a more balanced future. With collaboration, joint action, partnership, we can do extraordinary things and overcome the impossible. It's about our children, and it starts with us. It's now.
Welcome everybody. As many of you may have noticed, the summer that just passed has been devastating from a climate point of view in the Northern Hemisphere. According to many experts, July 2021 has been the hottest month in more than a century. The west coast of the US, but also Canada, have been overwhelmed by the heat wave. But at the same time, a record rainfall caused deadly flooding in Belgium and in Germany. On August has been the turn of the Hubei province in China, as well affected by deadly flooding. So not just the climate change is real, but is happening faster and more unpredictably. And as the latest IPCC report states, we as human beings, we have a role in all of that. So what is the size of the climate challenge that we're facing and what kind of sense of urgency should we have? We asked this question to Dante Pesce, who is a member and the former chair of the United Nations Working Group on Business and Human Rights.
Hello, thank you very much for the Global Alliance for Sustainable Energy for inviting me to your event. My name is Dante Pesce. I'm in Santiago, Chile, in South America. And I was the chair of the Working Group on Business and Human Rights, and currently I'm still member of the Working Group on Business and Human Rights for the United Nations. And I would like to make a reflection in the connection between climate change, the Sustainable Development Goals, but also the Business and Human Rights agenda that are in fact interconnected. And I would like to make a little bit of a reflection about that. Today is end of July. It should be in my country about max 10 degrees today. We're going to go up to 24. All next week will be around 27, which is pretty much summertime. And a lot of people are happy because we can go now after months and months of COVID outside to the parks and to walk and go to an outdoor restaurant, etc. But what is signaling that in late July we have this weather is exactly what happens around us regarding climate change. Is what everyone can see and, let's say, sense that there is something wrong, that there's something that is not going in the right direction. As a young child can easily tell you that is wrong what is happening with the whales or with the polar bears or the glaciers. And you have tons and tons of young activists that are feeling very impatient about what is the future prospect of the world in which they are going to live. And I think they are right. They are right to be impatient. I am impatient, and I don't have 100 years ahead of me. I am impatient. We all should be impatient. Today, where we are is a global consensus on where we are. So the scientific community has agreed that climate change is mostly due to human impacts, to human relations with the nature of the environment, to us, the humans. We also agree in terms of potential solutions. The Sustainable Development Goals show us that we can, by working together, the different actors of society, governments, business, civil society, we should be able, in a new, renewed alliance, to tackle societal challenges. That's let's say, a glossy, positive description. We know where most of the challenges rely. Who are the most polluting companies and which are the business models that actually don't work or work bad regarding what is needed in our society. So if everything pretty much seems to be obvious, and we have the Paris Accord with agreements towards 2050 in what direction we need to transit in order to reach the 1.5 max increase in temperature over the world. So if all the equation is so clear, why we're not moving faster? What's going on with the urgency that we need? And why our young people are actually protesting rightly around the world against our political class, our business class, that are not doing enough or not doing fast enough? And that's the question that we need to answer. Why, if everything is so self-explanatory, self-evident, obvious, we're not doing enough as a society? And then we need to bring in the conversation about leadership. Leadership is needed. We need the leaders, political leaders, business leaders, societal leaders to step up. One, to understand what are the issues and what are the challenges, and understand them well from a societal perspective, but also from a scientific perspective. We need them to commit to their societies, their stakeholders, but especially those ones that are impacted by their activities. We need our leaders to learn to collaborate in collective actions, to collaborate with their peers, their competitors in the pre-competitive space, and go beyond with their stakeholders and their challengers, including their challengers in this equation, and be able to have difficult conversations, to understand their challenges beyond the comfort zone. And that last point brings me to my last reflection, which are the business models. One of the global consensus that we have reached right now is that at the current speed, we will not reach the goal on speed and scale that we need to address the societal challenges regarding human rights and regarding the environment that at the end are interconnected and are part of the same challenge, a global existential challenge. We need speed and scale. And for that, we need to move from an incremental approach to an exponential approach. And to go exponential, there are some basic elements that we need. We need collaboration, we need alliances, we need to listen to science, but we also need to listen to non-science, which is regular people, impacted communities. And we need to define business models. Which are the models that are compatible with our targets for 2030, 2050 and beyond, and which business models are not compatible with that future. And we need to look at them in a holistic approach. So it's not enough that one subsidiary of a company is doing a fine job if the overall structure of a company with all the subsidiaries are not necessarily all of them on the same page and on the same trajectory. So we need to redefine the business models. And I can give you some examples. When you conduct due diligence and understand your impacts on the environment and on people, you will find out that, for example, in my region where I live right now, although I'm from Valparaiso region, but where I live right now in Santiago, growing watermelons is criminal because it's incredibly water intensive. And we are in a region that is suffering from permanent scarcity of water. So it's a desert pretty much. So insane to grow watermelons in water scarce regions. Same thing with water, cows, and milk. And we can go on and on with oil and gas and petrol, or plastic bottles, or selling sugar to children in plastic bottles or in a can, instead of teaching children to appreciate drinking water from the tap. Let's say the normal water that should be drinkable, that should be potable, etc. Each industry and each company should be able to ask themselves these difficult questions, or bring inside to their boardroom questionnaires, people that can actually ask them and challenge them with the difficult questions. Without an honest discussion about what we have not done well and how can we actually move ourselves to the level of exponential change, we will not be able, in fact, we don't see any possibility to be on track of achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, which is a blueprint for the whole world regarding the world we want, 17 goals and 169 targets, but also we will not achieve the Paris Agreement towards 2050. So we need collective actions, sure, and this alliance is indispensable, it's important. We need leadership that understands, that commits to their stakeholders and especially affected communities, impacted ones, that is willing to collaborate with others, clearly, but moreover, is willing to engage in difficult conversations, being asked difficult questions, questions that don't have an easy solution, but is clearly the expression of leadership to not avoid those difficult conversations. I leave you here with my intervention. Thank you again for the invitation, and I hope the best for all of you.
As we heard, the challenge is global, and the science is crystal clear. We need a shift in energy production and consumption. And actually, we also know where we need to be by 2050. The question is, how do we get there? The only answer is together through renewable and collective action. This is why it's so important to have a global alliance for sustainable energy. And global means a lot of things. Means geographically, of course, since we have members from all over the world. But global means also an holistic approach, embracing solar and wind industries, involving all stages of the renewable energy value chain. Global means also open to industries, open to governments, open to institutions, open to citizens, open to everybody to have a collective conversation about climate change and what we need to know to have this shift on the energy supply chain in order to make it 100% sustainable and to achieve the net zero emission goal by 2050. We're gonna have this conversation with 20 guests from different backgrounds, and we're gonna focus on three main topics. Sustainable value chain, because actually to achieve long-term results, but also to minimize the impacts on renewable energy, we need a common approach when it comes to the renewable value chain from suppliers to clients. This is also why we're going to discuss about in a roundtable with our founding members. Then we're going to also focus on the sustainable keywords, the topics that are going to set our agenda and are going to be part of the Global Alliance initial activities. And at the end, of course, we're going to talk about the perspective on the future. Looking ahead at the COP26 meeting in Glasgow next November, we need actually to galvanize collective action, but also to involve younger generation. So let's start this global conversation now. We're going to do that with Salvatore Bernabei, who's a representative of the Global Alliance, but is also the Chief Executive Officer for Enel Green Power. And he's going to talk to us about the role of the energy sectors, but also the Alliance commitment to sustainable energy.
Good morning to everyone. I want to tell you that I'm very glad to be here together with you, with the prestigious speakers and representatives of associations, of the academy, of the business, and of international organizations such as the United Nations, Global Compact, GRI, and UNESCO. And we are here together for the launch of the Global Alliance for Sustainable Energy. And I'm here representing the energy sector. So why a global alliance for sustainable energy? Global, first of all. Global because it includes a lot of players, different stakeholders, from customers to suppliers and contractors, NGOs and associations, energy associations, but also utilities, certifiers, technical partners. So different players and different stakeholders. So it's really a global alliance because it's inclusive. It represents really all the energy sector. Alliance. Why do we need an alliance? What the alliance stands for? Alliance because we need to reach a collective impact. It's time to act now and we have to join our effort. Our effort to do what? To develop a sustainable energy. So that's why we have to join our effort. And sustainable energy to address the sustainable trends in the energy sector and to make develop this sector in a competitive way, because we have to assure competitiveness, but at the same time, we have to assure that this transition, this development will be fair, will be just. So, Global Alliance for Sustainable Energy. Why do we need it now? Because we have to recover a sense of urgency, a sense of action. No need to mention the consequences of the climate change. From British Columbia to California, going to Brazil, in both hemispheres, we are observing every day, we are witness of what's happening. So we need to act now, and we have to do it for ourselves, for our children, for the future generations. And that's why I would like also to thanks Meredith Adler, who is representing today the Student Energy, an association representing the students, the younger generation. Here there is a deal that we have to do among different generations. We hope the association like Student Energy could help us in doing an effort in educating the next generation, but also the oldest one, because sometimes we need also to educate the oldest one. The current COVID pandemic has been like a massive wake-up call for everyone. We realized that something was broken here in the mechanism. We realized that our relationships with the planet was to be rebuilt. We saw ranges of mountains from our homes that we were not accustomed to see because of the pollution dropped. But we also observed the dolphins in the channels of Venice. So an action is needed to rebuild the different relationships. to save ourselves, to save the people, because we are speaking about people. A famous comedian, George Carlin, said that we have to stop worrying about our planet. It will be fine anyway. It's people. People are really in trouble. So we are speaking about people. And as people representing the energy sector, we have to act now by taking a fair and serious commitment of reaching a carbon-free energy by 2050. This is the commitment that we have to take now. We will pursue our mission of making a collective impact on the development of energy, making it sustainable, by leveraging on some core values that I would like to share with you. First of all, responsibility, respect for human rights, protection from the environment and the biodiversity, but also open collaboration and transparency. We will launch several initiatives in the next month, but what we want to do is the following. We want to be a point of reference for the regulators. We want to really embed sustainability in the entire value chain. We want to spread best practices about sustainability, but also define standards, define metrics, KPIs, to measure what really is sustainable, to measure if we will be on track or not in the design of new products, of new processes, in the handling of the end life of our power plants, for instance, for the production of electricity. We want to really be a point of reference here for everyone who will take a commitment in building a better world, a world that should be carbon-free by 2050. And in doing that, we will be coherent with the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. We will act through different initiatives like organizing events like this one, that is the first one of a long series of events where we will organize, or in publishing reports, organizing different initiatives, but also being part of the relevant event, such as the Climate Week in New York, on the next COP26 in Glasgow. So at the end of the day, we want to do our part, we want to play proactively in this new context, where the Global Alliance for Sustainable Energy is starting up. And before finishing my speech, I would like to wish you a buon lavoro, that in Italian means do a good job, have a good day, but also have a good luck, because remember that the fortune helps the balls. Buon lavoro. Ciao.
The Global Alliance for Sustainable Energy is a new independent organization bringing together some of the most recognized players along the renewable energy value chain. Inspired by a shared vision, transforming the energy sector to make it 100% sustainable and avert the worst effects of climate change on people and the planet. How? Deep and positive change can't happen without a united front. That's why we are connecting the dots between industry and end consumers by involving players with different perspectives and expertise, energy companies with suppliers and equipment manufacturers, civil society, institutions and governments, universities and investors, all together to create a common platform promoting and embedding sustainability throughout the value chain and setting sustainability targets covering the full set of environmental, social and governance topics. Together we will define metrics, standards and KPIs in line with the UN Sustainable Development Goals, activate collaborative initiatives towards circular solutions, promote supportive regulation, leverage the wide-ranging experience and innovative spirit of the Alliance's members, partners and stakeholders. We need to enable a just and fair transition to net zero by 2050, in line with the aims of the Paris Agreement, through socially responsible energy production while driving improvements in living conditions that are compatible with the sustainable use of natural resources and respect for human rights. Our ambition is for the long term, Our commitment to action is in the short term. We know that the time to act is now. Redefining the meaning of sustainable energy. This is the aim that drives us. The Earth is our motivation and our main ally. The future is what we are redesigning.
We're going to move now to our roundtable on supply chain. And when we organized this event, we really thought about the importance of acting right now. When we see what happened just this past summer, the effects of climate change all over the world, with the heat wave, the floods in Europe, the hurricane season that got anticipated once again, we really understand that there is no time to lose. And of course, when we think about the objective and the goal of zero emission by 2050, one of the sectors where we have to act is the energy one, because as you may know, this sector is the one responsible for more than 70% of global emission. This is why the Global Alliance for Sustainable Energy decide to act not just on the sustainable energy, not just on the renewable energy, but on all the supply chain. Because if you really want to reduce the emission, all the process is important. And as Salvatore Bernabei was just saying in his speech, the Global Alliance for Sustainable Energy guiding principle for the energy industry are sustainability and innovation. By promoting sustainability along the entire length of the value chain, we can enhance transparency, accountability, inclusivity, resource, efficiency, and responsibility, all of which are signs of a happy and healthy society. And we're going to talk about that with our prominent guests today to discuss about it. We're going to do it with the Director of Climate Change and Alliance at Iberdrola, Mr. Gonzalo Sainz de Mera. Welcome.
Thank you.
And then we're going to do that with the CEO of Goldwind International, Mr. Hu Kai. Welcome, Mr. Kai.
Hello, everybody.
And also with the Director of Management and Sustainability for Electrobras, Mr. Luis Augusto. Welcome, Mr. Augusto.
Everybody.
We're going to start with Mr. Sainz de Mera. And I would like to ask you, Mr. de Mera, how to extend sustainability through the supply chain from your company point of view.
Yes, ESG criteria, so environmental, social, and governance, are in Iberdrola's DNA and are part of our business model. So after reformulating our governance and sustainability system around these three pillars, we have decided to go a step further and extend this commitment to our more than 22,000 suppliers worldwide, to which we have purchases worth 20 billion euros a year. So we have set a target that 70% of our more than 1,000 main suppliers worldwide, those with a turnover with Iberdrola of more than 1 million euros, will be governed by ESG criteria by 2022. So to this end, we have created a model which has been validated by a third party and a digital platform in which our suppliers can self-assess their performance. So based on 47 factors, this system measures the degree of commitment to these three ESG principles, with 40% of the weight given to the environment, mainly climate change, 30% to social affairs, and 30% to good governance. So for those suppliers that obtain a low score, we will provide them with support to detect areas of improvement and will propose customized action plan to implement policy, commitment, and actions that enable them to comply with internationally ESG criteria. And to those suppliers that do not manage to adapt to ESG requirement with a reasonable period of time, will be excluded for future tenders until they reach the minimum level established to become an Iberdrola collaborator. So in this way, Iberdrola not only acts as an economic and industrial driver in the territories in which we operate, but also as a catalyst for sustainability throughout the value chain. Additionally, our commitment to ESG criteria and their extension to our main suppliers is also reflected in our management and remuneration model. We have included this matter in the evaluation of the 2020-2022 strategic bonus approved at the last general shareholder meetings. So the remuneration plan is linked to the increase in the number of suppliers subject to sustainability, and develop policies and standards such as having a human rights strategy, a code of conduct for our suppliers, health and safety standards, SDG 3, and a global environmental sustainability strategy, including strategies on climate change, SDG 13, on water, SDG 6, energy, SDG 7, and finally biodiversity, SDG 14.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sainz de Miera. And of course, the SDG goals, are very important also to give the right push to the sector, to the industry, to go in the right direction. And talking about renewable energy, of course, I'm going to move to Mr. Kai, because Goldwind is one of the leading companies when it comes to wind power industry, Mr. Kai. And could you please have a brief introduction of the achievements and experiences that Goldwind already have with these regards, including specific sustainable projects?
Yeah, thank you. As one of the major wind turbine manufacturing in the world, for sure, we have been engaging the very active role in tackling the climate change, and for sure others. In the past, we continuously provide stable and reliable wind turbine technologies global-wide in almost 13 countries. And also not only secure steady the supply of green power, and also creating the low carbon and the environmental friendship for the future is one of the major genes of the company from the beginning when we were born. By the end of 2020, global installation up to 74 giga. Regarding the management structure and other issues, very important, the sustainable development. Government continues to optimize our operation and the management with very high standard for social responsibility, which really according with international standard guidance and the initiatives such as the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And also for sure, taking to the consideration the impact to employees, to the clients, to suppliers, and also for sure very important the whole communities to protect the interest of all the major stakeholders, and also pursue the future development. With the goal promoting the sustainable development and building a better life to control the social responsibility, the risk, the government will integrate the concept of the sustainable into the whole business process, and also to evaluate every year all the positive and potential negative impact and the current, and also for sure the future to all the aspects to the environment. Just to give some example, for example, our headquarters in Beijing actually is the first neutral carbon campus. So basically integrate the turbine technology, wind technology, the solar technology, the smart grid, and the smart water treatment, and also for sure including consider all the wellness and also the people care. So basically, and also to try to integrate the green agriculture into all the innovation concept. And also not only ourselves, global-wide, we work together with almost 400 the major suppliers, the partners from the North America, partners from European Union, partners from Asia, and for sure partners from China to work together to drive all the green concept into our daily life, into our daily business. So not only ourselves, but also we already put more and more joint activities, the example to drive the neutral carbon industry. Furthermore, our partner for generators or partner for the nacelle, they already been certified this year, this June 2021, for their industry the park as the neutral carbon park. So, and also finally, I would like to see government is strongly commitment to the green energy and also strong commitment to contribute to the world with clean air and the clean water. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kai. So now we're moving to Mr. Augusto, and Electrobras is one of the world's largest utilities. How do you engage suppliers in terms of sustainability?
Hello, I will talk about the work we have been doing with our supply chain. Electrobras maintains a partnership relation with its suppliers from their procurement to the end of their activities. We team up with a quite huge number of suppliers due to the territorial scope and the complexity of our country with continental dimensions. The number of suppliers are almost 80,700. The total purchase made in 2020 is almost $1.2 billion. And the percentage of local suppliers is 45%. We will show our two high-value projects for our companies that will bring good results in the near future. The first one is the ESG due diligence, which is a periodic assessment and monitoring of suppliers. This process aims to select suppliers that share our sustainability values and identify monitoring needs during the business relation. The supplier fills out our ESG due diligence form at the supplier channel that is integrated with our ERP system and store the responses that will be available for analysis and monitoring. The project is aligned with SDG 12, and our corporate goal is to undertake ESG assessment of all our critical suppliers by 2022. We have several KPIs to observe this project. Some of them are the percentage of critical suppliers monitored for sustainability risks, the number of critical suppliers assessed in environmental, social, integrity, and human rights aspects, the percentage of critical suppliers exposed to integrity risks submitted to due diligence assessment, and the percentage of level 1 suppliers encouraged to promote and respect diversity. The second program is the Small Business Development Project. The objective of this project is to promote performance of small suppliers in our chain. We have teamed up with the Brazilian Service of Support for Micro and Small Companies to offer to these small suppliers several activities. Some of them are identify purchase opportunities, customized training with workshops and individual mentoring through specialist consulting, business sessions between Electrobras and small suppliers, increase of exclusive bids directed to this segment, and development of current suppliers to respond and to expand the bank of suppliers. The tangible benefits expected for participants and local suppliers are job creation, establishment of better prices, flexibility, agility, by increasing the competitiveness of the suppliers, nationwide visibility through innovation and economic, social, and environmental sustainability, reduction of transportation costs, logistics, and others, and optimization of investments for the development of the supply chain. Finally, the project is part of a broad sustainability program approved by our board of directors and included in our strategic planning. It's aligned with SDG 8 and SDG 12. This program will last 12 months and will be monitored by a group of performance KPIs with predefined targets and measure the results. These KPIs are increase of the level of competitiveness, increase the productivity, and increase of the profitability.
Thank you very much, Mr. Augusto. So now we're going to move to the final part of this panel, which is actually our standalone video, which are already recorded, to the Executive Director of JES Solar, Dr. Nuxin Wei, and to Mrs. Adele Mucci, which is General Manager always for JES Solar. And we asked both of them to answer to this question. JI is a leading solar manufacturer, which has been setting trends in the industry in terms of technology, improvements, and continuous R&D solution. Focusing on the supply chain, what are JS Solar actions towards a net zero transmission?
Thank you for your introduction, and thank other speakers and colleagues for their inputs. JS Solar has fully implemented green production practice, such as technological transformation and quality improvement, consumption and emission reduction, management efficiency enhancement, as well as low carbon office, and strive to achieve high quality development in its interaction with the environment.
At JSOLAR, we believe that the Alliance is the right place to collect different voices in the industry, but also we believe it is the right place to widespread the adoption of best practices in terms of sustainability standards across the whole renewable energy universe. As our chairman, Mr. Jimbo Fan, states, it is of a great importance to align and together cooperate to a more sustainable future. With that spirit, we have continuously enriched our business layout. We actively promoted the power station development and operation, but also we promoted the development of the entire industry chain based on green energy and its main business advantages. As a matter of fact, in 2020, our power plants generated approximately 840 million kilowatt hours of green power annually. So we do actively advocate for utilization of green energy. An example is our 3G manufacturing, where 85% of the site power consumption is coming from hydropower, as the region offers big water resources. We think that one of our major achievements of 2020 was the power consumption reduction, despite the newly increased production capacity. To give numbers, the unit power consumption of our cells processing in Yenzhou has been decreased by 15.5%. Our power consumption of the slicing per product in Yenzhou decreased by 28.7%, and the power consumption of our ingot pooling per product that we run in Baotou decreased by 23.6%. Finally, we also operated improvements when it comes to management and limitation of the exhaust gas treatment as in Xintai, our facility annual average emission concentration has been reduced to the range of 87.9 to 19.6%, and the annual VOCs emissions were reduced by 89.8%, which is pretty remarkable. And we're glad and proud that our Ninjin, Hefei, Xintai, Fengshan, and Botou facilities in operation have been awarded with the title of National Green Factory by the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology, which not only makes GeoSolar as an example in the PV industry, but also shows a positive response to the global target for sustainable development.
Sustainability is also a choice that each of us can make as an end user. But what does that entail? We ask to the Dutch multinational company Royal DSM their point of view when it comes to going sustainable and choosing their energy partner.
Royal DSM is a global, purpose-led, science-based company, active in nutrition, health, and sustainable living. Our purpose is to create brighter lives for all. And our products address some of the biggest challenges in the world, like health, food, and climate change, while enabling our customers to improve their sustainable operations. Sustainability is common for everything we do in DSM and have done for years. Besides a net zero commitment, it's important to act now. And we have set science-based targets to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions in scope 1, 2, and 3. We also advocate other companies to do the same. Power purchase agreements, or PPAs, are a perfect instrument to realize our ambition to purchase 100% renewable electricity. They're also important to add additional renewable energy capacity to the grid and improve sustainable development by phasing out fossil fuels. We also do recommend PPAs to our suppliers to lower their carbon footprint. I wish the Alliance for Sustainable Energy all the success with the important mission to promote sustainability in the value chain for renewable energy. Behind me is the past. Together, we can build back better and create a brighter future together.
Let's explore now our 4 keywords, which represent the 4 priorities for the Global Alliance. The first is net zero and just transition. Change is necessary, but is also an incredible opportunity to build a better, more resilient and more equal economy. We're going to discuss about it with Edi Usko, which is the Senior Manager for the UN Global Compact. But we're going to also discuss further about it in our roundtable with our founding members.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure for me to join you today. For those of you who may not be familiar with our work, the UN Global Compact is the largest corporate sustainability initiative. We have more than 12,000 participating companies and 3,000 non-business signatories in over 160 countries, as well as 69 country-based local networks. Corporate climate action is central to our mission. We are driving change through the Science Based Targets initiative, where the UN Global Compact is a founding partner, and the Business Ambition for 1.5-degree campaign that has engaged more than 600 companies, representing a market cap of over $13 trillion, which is the equivalent of the GDP of China. I have been invited to address you on the interlinked issues of net zero emissions by 2050 and a just transition. As we mark the launch of the Global Alliance for Sustainable Energy today, one thing is certain. Recent news on the upcoming IPCC report warns us that the worst impact of climate change are likely much closer than most of us realize and will reshape life on Earth as we know it if we do not act now. We are already witnessing the dire and devastating consequences to people and our planet. Every 1/10 of a degree of warming matters. Energy as usual is just not an option. Our milestones are clear. By 2030, and we only have 8.5 years left, we must halve global emissions and we must achieve net zero by 2050. The energy sector today, dominated by fossil fuels, accounts for 73% of human-caused greenhouse gas emissions. We are running far behind the race against time to accelerate the energy transition we need. The UN Secretary General has outlined key steps to achieve SDG 7 and net zero emissions. These include efforts to achieve universal access to electricity for the 760 million people who currently go without it, ensure clean cooking solutions for the 2.6 billion people still relying on harmful fuels, rapidly scale up renewable energy, renewables, rapidly end coal, phase out fossil fuel subsidies, and redirect funds towards renewable energy, accelerate improvements in energy efficiency, create green jobs, and triple clean energy investment. As part of our efforts to address the climate emergency, the Science Based Targets initiative has been developing a global standard for net zero to help establish a shared definition of what credible net zero commitment means for business. It is critical that any credible net zero corporate strategy must place science-based decarbonization at its core. Carbon offsets will never make a business model align with the Paris Agreement, and every company's long-term net zero target must include ambitious interim targets to demonstrate deep decarbonization and a continued progress. Lastly, we must ensure that the transition leaves no one behind through a just and inclusive energy transition. The Secretary General has made clear, and experiences from many countries confirm, that the move from polluting to renewable energy must involve local governments, unions, and the private sector to support affected communities and people generating green jobs. According to the International Labour Organization, 25 million jobs can be created in a green transition, with only 7 million lost. Countries and businesses must work together to ensure a just transition where opportunities outweigh jobs lost. Indeed, given the immediate challenge of a global pandemic and the urgency to act now, we are all part of the solution. The world needs to invest in a human-centered recovery from the crisis and focus on achieving resilience through the pursuit of a social justice. This requires investments in strengthening the capacities of all women and men to benefit from the opportunities of changing world of work, strengthening the institutions of work to ensure adequate protection of all workers, and promoting full and productive employment through massive investments in the digital, green, and care economies. Recognizing that we have no time to waste in the race against the terrifying impacts of climate change, the launch of the Global Alliance for Sustainable Energy as a collective commitment is timely. Through its multi-stakeholder strength, the Global Alliance for Sustainable Energy has the opportunity to lead the transition and take concrete, life-preserving action. We are in this together, and we must act decisively and urgently because the future depends on us. Thank you.
We are going to move now to our roundtable on net zero and just transition. And we're going to talk about these interesting topics with very prominent guests. We're going to be with Mr. Narinder Mohan, who is the Chief General Manager and Head of International Business Development for NTPC Limited. Hello.
Hello.
And then with Mr. Santosh, who is the Chief Sustainability Officer for Adani. Hello, Mr. Santosh.
Thanks, David, and hello, everyone.
And with Ms. Vaishali Sinha, who is the Chief Sustainability Officer for Renew Power and Founding Chair, Renew Foundation. Hello.
Hi.
So before starting our conversation, we're gonna watch together a movie from 3M. Actually was made by Maureen Tolan, who is the 3M Vice President, Sustainability, Safety and Industrial Group. Let's watch the video together and then we're gonna start our conversation.
Thank you for the opportunity to share some comments at this important event. 3M is a global company driven by science and innovation, and we have a unique culture that truly embraces and values creativity and collaboration. And the innovation that comes from that fuels differentiation for us and for our customers. 3M scientists and all our employees are passionate about creating solutions that are meaningful and make people's lives better. I'm Maureen Tholen, VP of Sustainability at 3M, working with our Safety and Industrial Business Group and leading our Science for Climate Sustainability pillar. The challenges we must address for a sustainable future are significant, but we can work on them together to solve them, and we rely on science to help us do that. In 2020, 3M announced our sponsorship of the SDG Ambition, a program to accelerate achievement of the UN Sustainable Development Goals by helping companies integrate them into their core business objectives. We're supporting the work of the UN Global Compact to provide leadership in program development, expertise in sustainability goal setting, and bringing in an advanced manufacturing perspective. R&D is at the heart of our company, and we do our work in collaboration with our customers. And because we have such a diverse portfolio of businesses, that gives us a great opportunity to make a broad impact in many industries and around the world. The ability to see and create something that doesn't exist today requires vision, imagination, and contributions from multidimensional diverse teams. And bringing those diverse perspectives together allows us to see a possible solution from every angle, and that's when game-changing innovation can occur. While we do this work, we are committed to sustainability, a value that matters deeply to 3M employees, our customers, and our stakeholders. For more than 40 years, 3M has been a leader among global corporations in sustainability actions and measures, beginning in 1975 with the creation of our groundbreaking 3M Pollution Prevention Pays, our 3P program. It's helped prevent over 2 million tons of pollution since its beginning. We built on that foundation as we created our sustainability framework several years ago, and we have 3 pillars of sustainability focus: science for circular, science for climate, and science for community, and allows us to focus our work and align to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And our recent announcements of carbon neutrality in scope 1 and 2 by 2050 and commitments in water use reduction and water quality improvement help us build a stronger company and a more sustainable world. And over the next 20 years, 3M will be investing $1 billion to deliver on our environmental sustainability goals and support continuous improvement of our manufacturing operations. A key initiative linking innovation and sustainability launched in 2019, and that's our goal to have 100% of our products entering the commercialization process to include a sustainability value commitment. It's a description of the sustainability impact of the products, such as reusability, recyclability, waste reduction, energy or water savings, responsible sourcing, improvement in air quality, reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, among many other positive impacts. Sustainability is a core commitment of our company, and we always want it to be top of mind in our operations and products. And beyond improvements in our own operations, a key intent for the goal is to help customers achieve their sustainability goals. Early in the COVID-19 outbreak, we realized that helping to fight the disease was going to involve new ways of working with other companies and organizations to find innovative solutions. We were able to create new products to help fight the pandemic and keep our manufacturing processes going in a safe and healthy way for our employees. We know we need others to help address sustainability challenges, and supporting the advancement of science by supporting that next generation workforce will be important for us all to reach those goals. And we want to give access to those opportunities to individuals who might not otherwise have those experiences. And to wrap up, specifically in the area of energy, 3M today is playing a key role in the energy transition through technologies that can help make the grid smarter, more reliable, and sustainable. Solutions that improve energy efficiency, they can increase capacity of existing transmission lines, they can help improve the performance of solar and wind renewable technologies and many other improvements. And finally, solutions and trainings for workers to help keep them safe and healthy while doing their jobs. Collaboration will help us overcome obstacles when we encounter them, and sharing those lessons along the path to discovery is an essential part of scientific exploration and how 3M approaches innovation. We look forward to working with all of you on this important journey. Thank you.
So let's start with Mr. Narinder. You know, Mr. Narinder, NTPC Limited, it's the India's largest power utility. And I would like to ask if you can share with us your current initiative and future plans related to renewable and alternative technology towards decarbonization. And also, if you can mention your specific new innovation and projects aligned to this.
Thank you, Ms. David. It's my privilege to interact today. And first of all, I'd like to thank the Global Alliance for Sustainable Energy on behalf of NTPC for providing us the opportunity to showcase NTPC's commitment towards greener and sustainable future. India is well on track to achieve its Paris Agreement targets due to various efforts on clean energy adoption and energy efficiency, and country has embarked on an ambitious target of having 450 gigawatt of renewable energy by 2030 and 175 gigawatt of renewable energy by 2022. NTPC, having an installed capacity of 67 gigawatt, is the largest power generating utility of India, with goals to become a 130 gigawatt company by 2032. NTPC has aligned its energy transition goals with India's priorities and NDCs. Going forward, we plan to pivot away from being a thermal power company to majorly become a RE-centric company. We aim to achieve 60 gigawatt of cumulative capacity of renewables by 2032. We have also recently declared this as part of NTPC Energy Compact Goals at United Nations High-Level Dialogue on Energy 2021. This is in alignment with 2030 Agenda on SDGs, Paris Agreement, and Net Zero by 2050. In this regard, at company level, we are surely working on the same. Our path to net zero includes huge RE capacity additions with diversification into other clean technologies. Reducing group net energy intensity by 10% versus 2012 levels is another major goal of NTPC. Reducing emissions and ensuring just transition forms cornerstone of our decarbonization strategy. In order to achieve the same, we have hived off a separate subsidiary called NTPC Renewable Energy Limited to pursue our RE targets. Our current RE capacity is 5 gigawatt with solar and hydro, and work is going on for development of another 2.3 gigawatt in short term. We are also exploring opportunities to convert our existing thermal generating fleets into mega hydrocarbon complexes through CCU technology. This initiative shall require very little reskilling of engineers and workers, minimizing the negative fallout on the existing manpower. Going green in a sustainable manner is going to be the mantra of all our business activity. In the same vein, we have associated with International Solar Alliance as its corporate partner. By partnering with ISA, we are helping other nations such as Togo, Mali, Malawi, Cuba, and Niger through development of around 1.8 gigawatt solar projects. In coming years, we intend to help develop around 10 gigawatt solar portfolio under aegis of ISA in ISA member countries. As a responsible corporate citizen, NTPC has always worked with reducing negative externalities while contributing positively to the community in which we exist. Continuing on the same path, we are also working on providing community-centered solarization solutions to 47 SIDS and LDC member countries of ISA. These solutions, which are environment-friendly and sustainable, are helping countries meet various SDG goals. Some worth mentioning solutions being developed are solar pumps for irrigation and potable water, solar-powered cold storages, and primary health centers. Currently, we are working on developing EV transport solutions, waste to energy, green hydrogen, hydrogen transport, and biofuel, to name a few. We are aware of the role of hydrogen in the energy mix in future, and India's green hydrogen efforts. We have floated a global expression of interest for setting up 2 pilot projects, standalone fuel cell based backup power system and a microgrid system with a hydrogen production using electrolyzer. I would also like to specifically touch upon 2 clean energy initiatives of NTPC which demonstrate the potential of clean energy transition in the thermal generation when blended with right technology. The first is the production of green methanol using CO2 captured from flue gas. NTPC is working on flue gas CO2 to green methanol projects at our Ramagundam and Vindhyachal stations. This will capture 20 tons of CO2 per day for production of 10 tons of methanol. The second is adoption of biomass co-firing of coal-based power plants. We have started commercial scale biomass co-firing at various NTPC power stations, and we are in the process of procuring 20 million metric ton biomass for co-firing 17 projects of NTPC over the period of 4 years. Each million metric ton of biomass co-firing leads to generation of 1.53 billion unit of fossil fire-free electricity and reduction of 1.28 million metric tons of CO2. In the end, I would like to say that living in harmony with nature has been an integral part of Indian culture. This has been abundantly reflected in a variety of traditional practices, religious beliefs, rituals, arts and crafts, and in the daily lives of Indian people from time immemorial. Therefore, I am confident that switching to net zero in a sustainable manner while taking care of the community and shall be a smooth sail for NTPC. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Narinder. It was a very interesting perspective. And now we're going to move to Mr. Santosh and the experience of Adani. I would like to ask you, Mr. Santosh, what is the significance of net zero target for your company into the Indian context where the country has ambition for development and ensuring energy security for all? At the same time, I would like to ask you, with the growth happening in renewable at much faster rate than thermal power, how are you managing this kind of transition?
Thanks, David. Thanks for having me here on the roundtable with other industry colleagues. I got the context of your question in the Indian context, what is net zero and how Adani is looking at it. The company that I'm representing is Adani Green Energy Limited. So it's a pure play renewable company. And the net zero may not be very significant for Adani Green Energy Limited because we are almost already there, except for scope 3. But I would like to speak in the Indian context, where the objective still is ensuring energy security for vast population of the country. And you must be aware that the per capita consumption of energy in India is hardly about 75 gigajoules. If you compare with European Union, it's close to 135, and for US, it is still around 285. Now, we also are into thermal power generation, but that's a different company, Adani Power Limited. And together with Adani Power, we have an operating portfolio of about 19 gigawatt, out of which about 14 gigawatt is the thermal capacity and about 5 gigawatt is the renewable capacity. And the idea of decarbonization is rapid growth in renewable power addition. And India has already demonstrated its ability to ramp up the renewable as countries, one of the few countries to be on track of meeting its Paris climate goals. And the target of having 40% of fossil share of power generation capacity replacement by renewable is almost going to happen in a couple of years. And we feel that this is the most cost-effective transition path for India without investing scarce resources in other sources like large-scale natural gas power generation or LNG, which has again significant volatility in terms of price. And for Adani, we are committed to adding more and more renewable power in the grid, national grid, bringing down the average emission intensity of the grid. We plan to be a 25 gigawatt operational capacity company by 2025 and a 45 gigawatt renewable energy company by 2030. So that's how we look at net zero or decarbonization by adding more and more renewable into the grid. As far as most of the companies globally who have declared their net zero ambition are based on retiring of coal assets or fossil fuel assets. But that is not the way we look at it, because our units are relatively very young, uh, from 5 years to 12 years of age, and they are more efficient than many of the other units in the country, as well as those units which are being retired. So what we are planning to have a higher, we have a dedicated program for efficiency improvement, as well as we are also looking at how we can decarbonize by adding biomass into the mix, as well as when the technology matures, we are looking at carbon sequestration, carbon capture, and utilization in a chemical form or other forms. But we feel that the clear pathway to net zero will still take about 5 to 10 years to emerge, as these technologies are mostly based on an assumption that they will mature in future, their costs will come down to make them viable at the plant scale, and they will achieve an economy of scale. So that's our take on net zero. And your second question was on how we are looking at just transition. So we have transformed into a company which was adding close to 2.5 gigawatt of thermal power every year between the period 2010 and 2015. Whereas now we have transformed into a company where we are ready to add almost 5 gigawatt of energy, 5 gigawatt of renewable energy plants every year. What we have done is we have trained the entire our project team and the construction team and reskilled them. The advantage that we had was we have an in-house training institute, that is Adani Power Research and Training Institute, where the additional skills for renewable power energy projects were imparted. And the entire team, which was earlier building almost 2 gigawatt of thermal power plants every year, is now geared up to build almost 4 to 5 gigawatt of renewable energy projects every year. There has not been a single retrenchment. The entire project team and the construction team has been absorbed and transformed into a team which is now building renewable energy projects. As far as the local community where our plants are there, we have a major initiative on sustainable livelihood for them, where we plan to make them independent of our resources or our activities, and so that they have alternate livelihood which is sustainable in itself. All our CSR programs are built in a way that after 3 to 4 years of handholding and empowering them and making them good enough so that they can take those programs themselves forward, and those programs are inherently sustainable for them. And we have now started, say, similar kind of programs at all our locations where we are building renewable power projects. So that's how we look at transition, where there is insignificant impact on the employees as well as the society. Thank you. Thanks for the question.
Thank you, Mr. Santosh. And talking about renewable power, we're going to move now to Ms. Vaishali Sinha, that is the Chief Sustainability Officer for Renew Power. And I would like to ask you, Ms. Vaishali Sinha, as leading renewable power company in India, can you please tell us a little bit more about your company commitment in terms of just transition?
Yes, hi, thank you. It's actually a pleasure to be here with all of you and to listen to my colleagues and the work which is being done. Clearly, it's evident that not only our country, India, is deeply committed to this just transition and the energy transition we are seeing globally, but also our corporates, the private sector, is deeply committed and is walking in tandem with the commitments being made by our leadership. We want to be a significant contributor, that's quite clear. Let me tell you a little bit about Renew Power. Renew Power is actually one of the youngest companies present here today, and we've been a pure play green company. When we look at what we are doing, it's all about having impact on the on the ground, the back of Beyond India, but also mobilizing global investors to be a part of this journey. And when we started, I think green was not a very familiar word. So we have actually spent the last decade in ensuring, engaging our stakeholders in understanding how this journey should look. And as we transition to the next decade, we look forward to leading it and ensuring that it is just. And I think that whatever commitments we can make, at the end of the day, in my view, as somebody who leads the social impact work in our company, where it's not only about being in a good business, we want to do it in a good way, and we want to have impact so that we can make the world a better place, engage our stakeholders, our communities, and really impact their lives, right? And as we go about doing this, it's quite critical that we have an inclusive journey. If none of this happens, I'm not sure if all this effort being put by all of us is going to be worthwhile. So at least at Renew, I'd like to say that we are deeply committed to all the environment, social, governance requirements which are expected of a company like us by our investors, by the government, by stakeholders. And we really take it upon us to ensure that we work with the entire chain, whether it is the suppliers, whether it's our customers, whether it is our communities. It is our responsibility to engage and to also bring about that culture change in the entire ecosystem. So we are very deeply committed to that. And, if you look at the just transition, it's not only about engaging, women in this, which is in a way a very critical matter, which I think requires a lot of attention. The women, if you look at it, are the biggest, at the receiving end of the climate change, negatives which we see. But do they have a voice? The answer to that is not really. Are they as engaged at all levels? I don't think that is happening. Are there enough opportunities for them? Not really. So at Renew, we are deeply committed to ensuring that this journey is inclusive and also to have our voice in the global space. Because it's not only about gender-related inclusivity and justice, it's also about how we engage people, how we employ people. That's critical. And also, if we look at from a global perspective, as this transition happens, the whole transition needs to be a just transition. So our voice with respect to engaging nations across the world in a way which is just should be considered, and it's an important item on our agenda. Of course, from an environment, social governance point of view, from a disclosure point of view, from a rating point of view, like any responsible company, we are at the top end of our commitments. And in terms of reporting our and rating associated with various initiatives we are conducting, we are at the kind of leading edge of what needs to be done. So I know my colleagues have already talked about it. We all know what corporates need to do. What are the commitments, whether it's SASB, whether it is Global Compact, etc. I think it's fantastic. Or even this Global Alliance initiative. These are all drivers which these drivers are binding us together towards a single direction. And we are deeply committed to be an active player and leader as we move ahead towards a net zero commitment. But I want to leave one thought, that making it just by being inclusive and also ensuring that as we march ahead, we are in it together so that we can have an impact as we move towards a commitment. It's not about where we have to get to, it's also about how we get there. And we are very deeply committed to making that possible. So that's all I have to say. Back to you, David.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Vasciali, for this interesting point of view. And I would like to close our conversation today with Miguel Setas, who is the EDP's board member. And, would like to get with him the perspective from one of the biggest European power company on net zero and just transition matter related.
We're living defining moments for our lives on Earth. We are facing unprecedented challenges which claim for immediate action. We know that electrification is paramount to reduce emissions, to decarbonize our economies. By 2050, we'll be demanding the triple of our electricity, and 90% of that electricity will be produced with renewable sources. But it's not only electrification which will cater to the needs of this change of the course of history. We'll need to invest in new technologies, in green technologies, like electric vehicles, storage, green hydrogen, all of those technologies that will be able to tackle the last mile of decarbonization. EDP is a front runner in the green economy, always aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals. EDP has always been a long-standing investor in the renewable space. Today, we've communicated, we've conveyed to the market a new positioning which aims to be all green by 2030. That means that we want to be carbon neutral 10 years ahead of time, 10 years ahead of what were our initial plans, 20 years ahead of what Europe is claiming. That will entail, till 2025, a 19 billion euros investment, 80% of our business plan. And also that corresponds to doubling down the capacity that we are installing every year. So we'll jump from 2 gigawatts of installed capacity with renewable energy to 4 gigawatts on a yearly basis. That's quite a lot. But it's not only investing in renewables, it's also accelerating the reduction of emissions. So EDP has committed to be coal-free by 2025. And in Iberia, we have already shut down our coal-fired power plants. That will also entail what we call a just transition plan for the communities that were affected by these shutdown procedures. Obviously, our concern is to tackle the local communities' needs and also the impact in the biosphere. Which means that in Iberia specifically, we will create 400 new jobs with new opportunities, with new investments, and will direct 2 billion euros for these regions to stimulate their growth and those new opportunities. But also, circular economy is part of the game. We need to be aware that the waste that will result from these closures will have to be properly tackled. That's why EDP has recently approved a circular economy strategy with all the concepts needed to guarantee that our impact in the biosphere will be the least possible, with upcycling, with repurposing, all the concepts that circular economy demands. That's why this Global Alliance for Sustainable Energy is really a structural initiative which will be decisive for the success of our efforts. We can count with a very significant and relevant group of companies committed, responsible, well-intended, and willing to make a change, willing to change the world, leave our legacy for generations to come better than the one that we got from our parents. That's the reason why we count on you. That's the reason why you can count also on EDP. Thank you.
Our second keyword is sustainable design and metrics. If sustainable means to meet our own need in the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own need in the future, how do we actually measure this commitment? How do we agree on what success looks like when it comes to standards, metrics, and KPIs? And how do we avoid that these standards could actually affect in a negative way the sustainable value chain? We are going to discuss about that with Peter Paul van der Wies from a Global Reporting Initiative and with Luca Noviello, who is the Head of Procurement for Enel Green Power.
Hello, my name is Peter Paul van der Wies. I'm the Chief External Affairs Officer of the Global Reporting Initiative. Our planet and society are facing significant challenges from the loss of biodiversity, growing inequality, modern slavery, and resource challenges to water and waste management. And the COVID-19 crisis has shown us once again how vulnerable we are and how unprepared. Climate change has become the defining issue of our time. And for very good reason. It is the cause of, and in a lot of cases, has tremendous impact on all the issues I just mentioned. The energy sector plays a crucial role in finding a way out of the climate crisis. And I'm not just talking about reducing emissions and reducing the use of non-renewable resources. A sustainable future also needs energy. That is why I'm so excited about the formation of the Global Alliance for Sustainable Energy, bringing together the entire value chain. After all, the task of building a sustainable future is a shared mission for us all. The success of this alliance will be partly based on the ability of the various partners to understand each other, to speak the same language. Even before discussions around target setting can start, partners need to be transparent and open about their performance and impacts. As the creator of the world's most widely used set of global reporting standards by organizations to report their impacts in a standardized, comparable way, we at GRI understand how important this is. And I'm therefore very pleased to see that KPIs and target setting are part of the early phases of the work program. The good news is that beyond the alliance, the interest for a common language to understand the impacts across value chains and sectors is growing globally, specifically around climate change. To name a few, the UN and the G7, G20 are working to strengthen the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures, TCFD, recognizing what I mentioned at the start, that climate change also impacts other issues and that companies need to report these elements as well. The European Union is in the process of mandating sustainability reporting, including a strong focus on climate change impacts. And finally, the International Financial Reporting Standards Foundation is now looking at developing reporting standards around climate change in the support of the interests of the providers of capital that's needed to change the industry and make the investments that are needed. So in other words, there's a substantial body of work for the Alliance to build on. It does not have to reinvent the wheel and develop new metrics and disclosures, but can instead rely and focus on ensuring that the data is collected and that they have the right information and therefore the right discussions about targets, roles, and responsibilities. So let me close by complimenting the Alliance members on their initiative and encourage them to be brave, honest, and bold in developing new solutions based on clear data and ambitious targets. If there's anything we from GRI can do to help, please let us know.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure to join you today. My name is Luca Noviello, and I am in charge of procurement in Enel Green Power. I am here to represent the commitment and full engagement of Enel Green Power to join this global alliance. As Enel, we are fully involved in the energy transition process at global level, both leveraging on decarbonization of our fleet and sustainable growth of renewable capacity. Our target is to reach 145 gigawatt of renewable capacity at 2030, reducing by 80% the greenhouse gases emission from 2017, guaranteeing the creation of more than 100 billion euro of gross domestic product from local investment. We are introducing a new concept of platform to support our business growth. An essential element of the platform is the sustainability that we consider a measure in all our value chain, from business development to engineering and construction and operation of our power plants, considering also the end of life of the power plants itself. More specifically, in the procurement, we are introducing in our tenders the sustainability drivers, both for the evaluation of our supplier and of their proposals. We have a library of more than 40 sustainable KPI, and 80% of our negotiated amount is based on sustainable evaluation and KPI. Our KPI are, for example, the percentage of use of renewable energy or the percentage of recycled material in the manufacturing process, or, for example, the involvement of local employers in the local work. We have a roadmap to progressively engage the supplier, asking them to develop the assessment and certification of the impact of their processes and products through the environmental product declaration, using the data of the declaration to have a ranking not only economical but also sustainable linked to the sustainability of the proposal in our tender. The measurement and certification of our supplier is a time effort approach, process, but the feedback from our suppliers are quite good because they understand the importance of this process for the improvement of our future. So I think that this alliance is a perfect common house where I'm fully convinced that the energy operators and the suppliers of this sector can cooperate in a joint effort to develop a sustainable and innovative solution for the achievement of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. For this reason, I wish to all the members of the alliance a good job, hoping that today will represent the beginning of a path of cooperation together.
Our third keyword is human rights. We are going to discuss about the importance of safeguarding human rights, but also how we can mitigate the human rights impacts of business operation and major development projects. Of course, we are going to discuss about all of that, addressing also the role of government and civil society, but also the way in which financial market can actually drive or undermine developments in human rights. And again, with us, there is Dante Pesce, who is the member, but also former chair of the United Nations Working Group on Business and Human Rights.
I would like to address you regarding the connection between climate change and the climate emergency and human rights. And the question that I would like to raise is climate change and addressing climate change and fixing climate change for what? For whom? And it has to be for people, for humans, because we have to make decisions today, and we are making some of them, not enough, not fast enough, for a purpose. And the purpose is we're facing an existential threat due climate change for humanity. So the why and for whom is for humans. We need to tackle climate change because it's hurting, it's impacting the life of people, especially people that don't have a plan B. I'm a privileged person. Many of you are privileged people. If things get too wrong where you're living, you will always find a place to move, a second house, a second place, a second country, where to go and where to find a place that is less tackled, less impacted by climate change. But the vast majority of the population doesn't have that privilege. They will be forced to migrate, and they will be forced to migrate in huge waves, millions, dozens of millions, hundreds of millions, looking after survival. And what happens when millions of people move at the same time because of survival? What happens is, and that has been described many times in history, the name that is used is collapse. So what we're facing is an existential threat, the threat of societal collapse. If we don't do what is needed, what is right, what is urgent, and actually we know what to do. But what is missing is the political will in one hand from governments, politicians, business leaders, and the capacity to articulate efforts in what is called collective actions. And the collective actions are indispensable if we want to move from an incremental approach that today is taking place, and I applaud that. Of course, it's good that companies and coalitions and governments are doing some good effort, and in some cases excellent effort. I applaud that, it's good, but it's incremental. And what we need to move into is an exponential approach. We need to change much faster and much quicker in order to tackle the effects of climate change that we are suffering already, and in order to fix this equation that requires so many different actors, so many different players participating at the same time. Can we do it? Of course we can. As humanity, we prove one and again that we are able to come back after collapse or disaster. We have developed that capacity to be resilient. We are a resilient species, and we can do it if we work together. Therefore, your alliance is part of the indispensables, because in order to look after solutions that can last for long term and actually address the root causes that cause what we call now climate change or abuses of human rights, which are clearly, of course, interconnected, as I already mentioned, we need to work in groups that are big enough to bring everyone possible under the same tent, to make the ambition expand and grow, expand the vision to longer term, and make our ambition grow in a way that realistically can address the societal challenges, including the environmental existential threat that we face, in a realistic way, timely, accordingly to what is scientifically possible, accordingly to our capacities, but with this ambition that I have repeated many times, looking forward with this much greater ambition, from incremental to exponential. Therefore, the collective actions are indispensable, and I salute your initiative, and I really hope that it works well, because we need it to work well. Thank you.
Our 4 keywords is the water energy nexus. Several current trends indicate the urgency to address the water energy nexus in a more integrated and proactive way. Of course, climate change, but also population growth and new technology which can affect the water and energy demands. We are going to discuss about it with Michela Miletto, who is the coordinator of the UNESCO Water World Assessment Program.
Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and good afternoon. First of all, on behalf of UNESCO, the World Water Assessment Program, let me thank Global Alliance for Sustainable Energy and the entities and experts that are participating in this important initiative. I'm particularly pleased to be invited to talk about water on an event mainly on energy, and I commend the organizers for this forward-looking approach. An approach that is commonly known as water and energy nexus. Indeed, there is a relation between how much water is consumed to generate and transmit energy and how much energy it takes to collect, clean, move, store, and dispose of water. Let's have a look at the data. As of today, 663 million people do not have access to improved drinking water sources. And 759 million people worldwide still lack access to electricity, 2/3 of them located in sub-Saharan Africa. Some facts. 90% of global electricity generation is water intensive. In particular, thermal power generation that use heat to make power, which are responsible for roughly 80% of global electricity production. In a business as usual scenario, to keep up with this electricity demand, growing freshwater withdrawal and consumption is projected to increase by 85% by 2050. Despite the progress of policies promoting renewable energy like solar, wind, and geothermal, the world's global energy system is continuing to rely on fossil fuels. So what about the future in terms of demand on water and energy? Overall, water demand is projected to increase by some 55% by 2050, mainly because of growing demands from manufacturing, thermal electricity generation, and domestic use. And global energy demand is expected to grow by nearly 80% by 2050. So meeting these growing demands is the challenge to face now. If we look at the other side of the nexus, therefore energy for water, we observe that also more energy will be necessary to extract, distribute, and treat water resources. In principle, a lot of energy is essentially required for pumping water, treating water, as well as for seawater desalination. So we have a number of solutions, hopefully, to achieve a sustainable energy and sustainable water. For example, improving water energy efficiency at technical and policy level. Such, for example, promoting renewable energies that are less water consumptive. For example, in agriculture, using solar-powered irrigation system could reduce very much the energy cost. Rethinking our cities, the reuse of untreated or partially treated wastewater can reduce the amount of energy associated with water extraction. Promoting technological innovation, like the latest, more affordable techniques for desalination. Addressing and removing misaligned subsidies and incentives in water and energy, like the unfortunate case of free electricity to water withdrawal for agriculture in India, which produced groundwater overexploitation at crucial levels. But there are positive signs from different parts of the world. For example, the European Union, with the Green Deal and its ambition program Fit for 55, aims at becoming the standard setter of the energy transition at global level. This will help lowering the critical water demand from the energy sector. Reconciling competing uses of water and energy will contribute achieving the Agenda 2030 to construct sustainable and just societies.
Young generation are often at the forefront of the climate debate, raising their voices and advocating for climate action. This is a key backdrop thinking about the wider policy debate ahead of the COP26 Climate Summit. We're going to discuss about that with Meredith Adler and also Oluwadabira Abiola-Ove from Student Energy, whereas Patrizia Lombardi, who is the pro-rector of the Politecnico di Torino, will explain to us the role of innovation and the next generation of energy leaders.
Hi, I'm Meredith Adler, the Executive Director of Student Energy Global. Hi, I'm Oluwadabira Abiola-Ove, a Nigerian and an associate at Student Energy. Student Energy is a movement of over 50,000 youth who are representing 120 countries. And we work to unite, to empower, to educate, and to develop young people to be change agents who innovate tangible solutions that impact our energy future. We are working to bridge the gap between motivation and action because we understand that young people face challenges. Some of these challenges would be that 82% of young entrepreneurs find it difficult to access funding, and then it takes between 5 to 10 years for them to get their first movement off the ground.
As Oluwadabira mentioned, we think it's really important to start to address these challenges that young people are facing. And that's why we're so excited to see the launch of the Global Alliance happen today. We feel that young people can really be catalysts for change and a powerful collaborative force in the energy industry because they understand the need to decarbonize. They have strong visions for their energy future. And they know what it takes to get solutions deployed in community. This can be a really powerful tool to leverage to collaborate with young people globally to pursue the goals that the Alliance has. Ultimately, young people don't have the power, the money, or the resources that other actors in the space do, but organizations like Student Energy and the Alliance can work together to make sure that we're providing for them what they need to be part of the energy future and for all of us to achieve our goals. We're incredibly excited for the launch of the Alliance and can't wait to work together to make sure that young innovators have a space as we create our renewable energy future.
Universities are involved in the advisory board as tertiary parties, playing a leading role in orienting, supporting the activities of the working group. This is because universities are an over-the-party body with good relationships with private, public institutions and all stakeholders. University play a crucial role in implementing the UN 2030 agenda, thanks to their missions relating to education, research, innovation, and services to society. It is crucial for universities to make all the appropriate synergies for supporting the millennium human transition towards a more sustainable world. The Global Alliance for Sustainable Energy offers such a great opportunity. It is formed by companies, industries, but also non-government organizations, as well as universities and research centers. The Alliance works in cooperation with other networks, including young generation students, specifically focused on energy transition and climate mitigation. And Politecnico di Torino is the oldest technical universities of Italy. In the past 160 years, it has supported the industrialization of all the nation and currently is leading the Italian network of University for Sustainable Development. In Italian Rete delle Università per lo Sviluppo Sostenibile, which is specifically devoted to support the ecological transition of our communities using university campus as living lab models. This network involved more than 700 members for 80 different universities in Italy, focusing on promoting the UN agenda and working in cooperation with a number of international stakeholders, such as Sustainable Development Solution Network, the UK COP26 University Network, and many, many others. Universities, as Politecnico di Torino in particular, are specifically committed to provide appropriate competencies to the new generation of engineers, practitioners, and managerial class of the future, renovating formative approaches and bringing transdisciplinarity elements in all students' curricula. Great Challenge is the name of the new transversal cross-disciplinary course available for all our students, which involve both technical, scientific disciplines, as well as social humanities, understanding of the great challenge of our century: innovation and digitalization, sustainable supply chain, net zero, just transition, sustainable design and metrics, human rights, and sustainable development goals are all included in a number of hackathons, challenge, and other interactive approaches which are available for all our students working in connection with industries, civil society, and SMEs. In conclusion, I believe that Politecnico di Torino will be able to greatly support this global alliance for sustainable energy at international and national level, bringing appropriate expertise and co-creation of knowledge with the recognition granted of no-profit operational attitude. But as much as the global alliance will represent the appropriate impetus for all the Italian universities engaged in current challenge, collective action relating to community energy transitions. Thank you.
We're going to wrap by with a focus on a wider policy picture and also how sustainable form of energy are becoming more and more important when it comes to global climate and sustainability agenda. With us, Gianni Chianetta from the Global Solar Council and Ben Buckwell from the Global Wind Energy Council. So, gentlemen, since wind and solar are set to become the leading form of energy in the future, I would like to know how does it look from where each of you sits?
Well, thanks very much, Joanna, for that question. Wind and solar have very distinct characteristics as renewable technologies, but they're highly complementary and they share similar growth trajectories and the regions where they're growing, and they also share similar challenges to their sustainable growth. These are some of the reasons why closer alignment between wind and solar is really important for accelerating the energy transition. According to the IEA's latest net zero report, wind and solar PV will become the leading sources of electricity in the world by 2030. And by 2050, wind and solar will provide around 70% of global power output. Now, in order to do that, wind installations will need to reach 8.3 terawatts by 2050. And at the moment, we're at something like 750 gigawatts. So this implies that annual wind energy installations need to scale up to something like 3 or 4 times the record level of 93 gigawatts that we had in 2020 over the next 10 years to 2030, with a 20% share of this coming from offshore wind. Now, we're also seeing more wind-solar hybrid projects all over the world, in Europe, but also developments underway in Australia, Brazil, Philippines, Kenya, and India, to name just a few. So, Gianni, we really have our work cut out for us from what it looks like. How does it look from the solar industry's perspective?
Yes, Ben, indeed, we have ambitious target for the 2030 and the 2050, but we are quite confident because the past decade has taught us that we could reach a lot of installation investment thanks to the really dramatic reduction of cost of the solar technology. The global market outlook of Solar Power Europe in cooperation with Global Solar Council on the 2020 talks about 39% of market share of the solar sector and for the new installations. And we reached almost 800 gigawatt in 2020. And we are looking, in 1 year, we are expecting to pass 1 terawatt of installation. And in the good condition, the forecast is to reach 2.1 terawatt in 2025. All this global growth, Ben, is really is so important and is feasible, but the critical point is how we are going to achieve that. And the Global Alliance for Sustainable Energy is for sure an important answer, important point. It's a forum where solar and wind, which will be the dominant source of energy worldwide, will have the responsibility, and GWEC, Global Solar Council, will have the responsibility to coordinate the activities of the Global Alliance for Sustainable Energy, engaging all the others technologies, sustainable energy technologies, and to join forces all together. Ben, I pass the floor to you, asking, we are really, we have a net zero target, but there are a lot of challenges in order to dramatically increase our, annual growth. And what are these challenges? And from your perspective, how are you going to address them?
Well, thanks, Gianni. Well, the upcoming COP26 climate talks are a crucial platform to drive the ambition that we need, and also to begin to address the massive challenges that we're facing in order to scale up and reach net zero. Now, to do this, GWEC has convened a global wind energy coalition for COP26, made up of leading companies and associations to really drive sustainable industry growth over the next 10 and 20 years. Our activity in the lead up to COP26 is very much aligned with the goals of the Global Alliance for Sustainable Energy that we're launching today. The wind industry has a crucial role to play to clean up the dirty parts of the global economy, steel, cement, concrete, heavy transport, but also to decarbonize our own supply chain at the same time. And this is really a key challenge. Work on the wind industry's own sustainability is already underway as we move from pilot projects to a full-scale industry approach to address the challenges. And these are things like developing a circular economy approach for blade recycling, and wind turbines are already 85 to 90% recyclable, but the challenge is to move to 100% by developing the infrastructure that we need, developing more sustainable materials such as recyclable PET for blades instead of using balsa wood, and moving away from the less sustainable materials in the supply chain. The massive scale up that we need also brings the challenge of scaling up our workforce. GWEC estimates that something like 3.3 million jobs could be created in the wind industry in just the next 5 years, according to the growth forecast. And ensuring that wind and solar adhere to and uphold frameworks protecting labour and human rights for this emerging workforce is another big area of focus that we need to address through this alliance. So, Gianni, how does this play out from the solar perspective, and how does it tie into the wider policy discussion that we'll be seeing later this year at COP26 and other international meetings?
Yes, Ben, we, of course, we have a lot of challenges, but we have also a lot of opportunities. Of course, it's very important that beyond the numbers of investments and installations, we need to look at the link between solar, wind, with the sustainable developing goals of the United Nations, the link with the economic and social and environmental domains. If we think very important is the report, the outlook of Irina, saying that if we align with the 1.5 degrees Celsius increase of the temperature, we can achieve a boost of the global GDP up to 2.4% above the forecast by 2030. We can achieve 38 million of new jobs, and a lot of these new jobs should be related to women, and the female entrepreneurs should have a very important part of it. And it's very important that you talked before, Ben, about the circular economy, which is very good for the environment, but is also a very important multi-billion dollars industry. If we think that a lot of giga markets like Germany, like India, like China, and so on are reaching the end of life for a lot of panels, and our panels is made of important components like with value, like silver, like copper, like glass, and so on. So it's a very important also economy itself. Coming back to the socioeconomic aspect, I'd like to highlight that three-fourths of the people worldwide that has no access to power are living in sub-Saharan Africa. And if we think that 300 million children are attending school with no power, well, solar wind can for sure contribute to their education. We have the responsibility. We need to join forces together, and we need to bring at COP26, as you said, Ben, our of course information position and give voice to our industry. We need to talk about simplification of authorization procedures, about facilitation of investment. We need to talk about improvement of our grid. We need to talk about putting a price on carbon to play in a levelized field and to finance also with this money the sustainable transition. And we together, GWEC and Global Solar Council, we are also running the Worldwide Carbon Price initiative. So all together we need to join forces, and because only together we can really make this change, we can really accelerate the sustainable transition.
We arrive at the end of this event today, and I would like to thank all the members of the Global Alliance for their commitment and their role in building a better future. And of course, I would like to thank all the speakers who are part of this event today, thanks to their expertise and their perspective. And mostly, I would like to thank all of you who were part and participate in this digital event today. Thanks to your commitment and thanks to your interest, we can have a global conversation that can bring sustainable and important change looking at the future. So please stay tuned on our social media accounts and on our website. Goodbye and good sustainable future.